Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. There are a couple of news stories for us today, so sit comfortably and let's get started. You're right. I don't work here. I'll be going now. I worked in a restaurant a few years ago that was located just outside of a mall. That day was some major shopping holiday, so management expected a large turnout to the restaurant and had a ton of servers working the morning shift to handle the workload. The only problem was that everyone was in the mall and hardly anyone came into the restaurant. Most of the staff was just standing around, and I decided that I wanted a milkshake that pretends to be coffee from everyone's favorite Seattle-based coffee chain. So I asked around for anyone who wanted anything and got an order for maybe 6 drinks, each with their own requirements. Skim milk in one, raw sugar in another, vanilla creamer in this one, etc. I wrote down the orders and went off to the coffee shop. Now, the coffee shop was at an intersection inside the mall and was absolutely mobbed. The line was wrapped around the corner. I had nothing better to do and had already collected the orders and cash from my coworkers, so I just waited and placed my order. Several minutes later, my drinks came up. I brought them over to the prep station that has all the sugars and creamers and began making everyone's coffee just so. I pulled out my slip of paper and the first coffee gave me a problem. My coworker wanted 4 packets of raw sugar. I looked at the sugar caddy and saw just the familiar white refined sugar packets. Those yellow, pink, and blue packets of sweet chemicals that are somehow different from one another, and a conspicuously empty black tray that I assume used to have the raw sugar. I looked over to the counter and the employees were either a beautiful disaster or a well-oiled machine. Blenders are going, beans are being ground, the employees are shouting lingo back and forth to one another. They look busy. I glanced back to the prep station, and it's atop some cabinets. If I worked here, I thought, I would put all the extra stuff for this station in these cabinets. It felt foolish for me to go bother an employee, break them out of their rhythm, and have them come move something from my knees to my hips, so I knelt down and opened the cabinet. Some lady. Do you work here? Me. No. I'm dressed as a waiter, all in black, wearing a black apron with red lettering on it. Well then, what do you think you're doing? I guess I am kind of rummaging through the cabinets, and that might not be cool. I saw she was just some lady, though, so I went back to my mission. I tell her I was just looking for some, here we go, raw sugar. I grabbed a handful of packets and restocked the empty black tray, thinking that'd be the end of it. But of course it wasn't. Why do you think you can just do that? There are employees right over there. You should really have asked. It's their job anyway. You really should have told them. If they're not going to stay on top of this, then someone should really let them know. If they're too busy, then they should have more people working here. That one isn't even working. You should have asked her. I'm going to let them know. You really shouldn't be doing this. You could have put anything in that cabinet. What are you really doing in there? Well, I need to tell someone about this. That was the gist of her tirade. I offered almost nothing in my defense but stammers and the beginnings of a few sentences that were immediately cut off. She then told me to wait where I am because she's going to get the manager. Then she walked away and cut to the front of the line. I noticed that the refined sugar and pink chemicals were low, so I restocked them too. Then I went back to making my coworkers coffee. I finished up and had 2 hands full of those compressed recyclable cardboard trays with 6 coffees and my own barely coffee, mostly milkshake, and I'm walking away when I hear, "Hey, that's him right there." So I turn on my heels to face this random do-gooder lady and a dead-eyed employee. Dead eyes. Sir, did you go in the cabinet and restock the sugar? Yeah. And are you leaving? Yeah. Okay, then I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Right. The random lady looked so pleased with herself. I think the nuance of the full interaction I had with Dead Eyes went right over her head. It made me super angry to see her smug smile and sense of self-satisfaction, but I'm a well-adjusted young man, so I just brushed it off and went back to the restaurant. I tell it as the time I was kicked out of a coffee house for restocking their sugar caddy. I'm sorry if that was a bit anticlimactic. I still do this, by the way. I rummage through the cabinets all the time. Just the other day, I needed a small Slurpee lid and did the exact same thing, except everyone left me alone. Deadeye's reaction was perfect. Are you leaving? Yeah. Then I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Doing nothing while simultaneously humoring a customer's idea that they got you to do something is such an underrated skill in the service industry. And our next story. I'm just a student Karen. I was cleaning some kiln shelves off in the ceramic studio during open lab hours. A student and her mother came into the kiln yard, and I overheard the student say, "Oh, my pieces didn't get fired." Not my business. I'm just a student, and I'm wrapping up my last personal firing of the semester. A few seconds later, there's an aggressive, almost painful tapping on my shoulder. Why didn't her work get fired? It was supposed to be ready to take home today. Mom, that's not my teacher. This goes completely unheard and ignored by the mother. I tell them, sorry, I'm just a student here. I don't fire other people's work. We need her work done by Friday. She's graduating and we're leaving the state. You're so selfish for not putting her stuff in that kiln. I saw how much room you had in there. The student was looking absolutely mortified behind Mom. I explained that I was firing porcelain and that her daughter's work was low-fire clay and would have melted in the kiln. Also state that I'm not allowed to fire other students' pieces unless given the go-ahead by my professor. Well, that is unacceptable. Get off your fat butt and fire her work. I paid $1,500 for this class, and she's going to take home everything she made. I just went back into the studio. Mom followed me into the upper division area, which is off limits to most people. Get back here! I ignore her and just try to wrap up a couple of bowls so I can put them in my bag. She then notices all the work in the advanced space and starts touching it. Why aren't the intro classes given projects like this? For how much the course is, the content should be better. Mom, we need to learn the basics first. Also ignored. I'm now blocked from exiting the space by a very angry woman who's got her hand on a sculpture my classmate has been working on all semester. She keeps telling me I'm lazy and that firing takes no effort because the kilns are self-regulating. Our kilns are gas and need constant monitoring over several hours. Finally, my saving grace arrives, our shop manager, who's kind of an a-hole with a short fuse, but who I deeply appreciate for all he does. He appears behind her. I can see the student pale a little bit, knowing what's coming. Lab manager, what the F are you doing in the advanced space? Mom starts going off again. My lab manager looks calmly at me and tells me I can go, clears the way, and I take my chance. Just as I'm leaving the studio, I hear him start yelling. Justice at last. But my God, an angry witch of a woman and a very large oven. I believe I see a solution to this dilemma. And our third story. Never thought I'd have one to submit. On my phone, so if anything messes up, blame the typo fairies. And to be fair, I don't even know for certain if this belongs here. You be the judge. While I love reading these stories here, I haven't had too many opportunities to post one of my own until just now, which is odd because I am at work. I work for a private security firm that deals with ships coming from other countries. We get our marching orders from the Alphabet Boys, CBP, USCG, you get the idea. We're usually called out when there are crew members who don't have the proper paperwork to step foot on American shores. Now that I've probably made myself sound overly important, I'll tell you exactly what I do. I'm an armed babysitter. End of the story. So I signed on this morning at 7 o'clock. Now I'm normally night shift, and by 7 o'clock I'm on my way home, but for reasons my boss couldn't explain, I was swapped out. Strike one. When on board, I learned that the ship will finish loading and will be sailing by about 1300. We don't do shift change while the ship is under power, so I'll have to take the ride down to the mouth of the river. Total shift today just jumped from 12 hours to approximately 22. Strike two. Departure paperwork. That as the ranking officer on board, it's my duty to fill out. Paperwork. Bane of my existence. Strike three. Hell with it. I'm out. I've commandeered the tally office on deck to use the desk. They were using the office as spare storage anyway, so it's not a problem. As this is a 3-guard operation, I've posted one officer port and one at the gangway starboard. My men are good at their job, and the ship's crew have been rather pleasant, so I'll admit I let my guard down. As I'm sitting at the desk signing what's left of my soul away, I overhear yelling behind me near the hatch. The title Chief Officer is repeated several times, so I rightfully assumed it was a cargo inspector looking to clear some paperwork of his own. And considering the noise of the loading operation, yelling is to be expected. Nothing to be concerned about, I figured. Now, I've learned over the years that some inspectors and agents have an overinflated sense of entitlement, and I've had to step in on several occasions when they felt that they had the right to put their hands on a crew member. The inspector learned his lesson the hard way. He gripped my right shoulder tight and yanked on it. Considering I carry my weapon on my right hip, I, like many of the long-term officers on the company, have developed certain areas you just do not touch us in uniform. Because you get too close to our weapons. I honestly didn't even fully realize what had happened until I had his arm twisted behind him and his face on the deck. I let go quickly, stepped back, and looked down at him without actually saying anything. "You a-hole, what the F?" His eyes grew large as he realized just who he'd tried to manhandle. "Can I help you with something?" At over 6 feet tall, dressed in all black with shoulders almost as wide as the hatch cover, I can only assume I cut an impressive image. "Probably not. I need to see the chief," he stuttered out. Quirk eyebrow. "I don't see why you even thought I was part of the crew." I reached down to help him up, but didn't let go when he got to his feet. "If I ever catch you laying your hands on anyone on a ship, I'll throw you overboard, understand?" "Yes, sir." "Sorry, sir." He rushed off into the superstructure, leaving me wanting some coffee and aspirin. Ah, damn it! I'm gonna have to write an incident report on this. Bloody paperwork. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.